It's a weekday night, early in September, and that can be the busiest time of the year, so thank you for coming. We have a very special guest with us tonight for tonight's program, and we'll share more about that in a moment. But one thing I've learned about that soul the last few days is that they do not bite. So you can come closer. And they will not bite you, I promise you. Because it's really strange to have all these chairs. So please, feel free to come closer. It's much more fun that way. And you'll hear better, and everyone can come closer. It's a great form of exercise. Standing up and walking closer. Anyways, tonight is, I think, a very special theme. Anyone new to the Brahmakumaris here? Anyone new to our Rakhi programs? Alright. So as you know, we're an organization that focuses on spirituality, right? Cultivating spiritual understanding, accumulating spiritual power. We're always looking for the spiritual significance of things in our day-to-day life, but also things that have become very sacred, such as this Hindu festival of Raksha Bandhan. So it's going to be a little bit different if you are familiar with Rakhi from past experiences. It might be a little bit different. We're going to look at the spiritual significance tonight, and especially focusing, it's this bond of protection. That's what Raksha Bandhan means. But the question of who's protecting who, what exactly we're protecting, and the idea of maybe just protecting the dignity of the self. Something as simple as that. And again, we tend to be so caught up in life out there and think all the value is in what we're doing out there. So tonight, you have full permission to get dedicated to concentrating on the value of the self. Is that okay? Are you open to that? All right. So, I am not going to speak about it. We have someone far more interesting here to speak about it, who is coming from across the pond. So, Sister Mani is a Brahmakumari with the organization. Over 40 years, I think 42 years, that she has been studying Raj Yoga. And we have had a few days with her. I was really trying to think of what are the right words to describe his soul. And the reason it's challenging is because, our focus in this study is not just to talk about spirituality, but to actually become the embodiment of spirituality. And that kind of goes beyond words. And what I started to notice for myself from the time I've spent with this soul is that, we'd spend time together and then I'd go off on my own doing something, and I found I was feeling really light, really happy and light. And I was like, what was that about? And I realized it was simply being colored by the presence of that soul. The soul really radiates spirituality and lightness in such a natural way. So you're going to receive quite a few gifts tonight, and some of them I think will surprise you. They're quite invisible. You're going to be colored by spirituality tonight, and it always is such a beautiful experience. So there's so many words, but I think you're going to feel the speciality of this soul tonight. So without further ado, I will invite Sister Melanie to come on up and speak about restoring dignity to the heart of the soul.
Good evening. and Om Shanti. It's a the festival, Raksha Bandhan. We especially has got lots of kind of, when we think about it, we, as Judy was saying, it's like actually recharging the self. And I had quite a few occasions of Raksha Bandhan, and I was saying that it started for me in July, although it was, actually was 26th of August. But because we have big numbers of members and they all want to experience the beauty of Raksha Bandhan. Other day I went to see the mountains, especially where the water is coming, and I was just thinking about the Himalayas. Because one of the things about, the world knows about where the Ganges are coming from. It comes from right at the top, and it goes far, far away. And so I was kind of comparing the nature of two places. And when I went to this place where, what you call River Lucas, yeah? Is that right? Yeah. And I was just thinking it's coming from right at the top, and when you go nearby, because it's just coming from up above, and it has got absolutely cleanliness of it, and it's like untouched, very clean and pure. And one of the things we meditators, or generally we people, love nature, and that actually tells us about ourselves something. And when we really go deep within ourselves, it's something like that. That imagine, and the nearest example I can come to is child, actually. You know, when child is born. Other day I went to see child who was only, 3 days. And looking at that child was telling me something about me. And we all of us, once upon a time, we had that very clean, pure inner state. And we relate to that. We sometimes think about ourselves that what do I want? What am I looking for? And as I said, that one of the things about nature, external nature, and sometimes if we spend time in nature, it starts to kind of give us some kind of experience. And I know many people, and one of the things in England, what used to happen, it's still happening, but not the way it used to happen. That there used to be compulsory 2 weeks holidays, and people used to look forward for that. Especially summertime, that it's their time to go somewhere, and their daily to daily environment, and they just want to experience something different. And we all have that kind of experiences, that when we away from our daily to daily environment, go somewhere, we start to think differently, we start to feel differently. Because sometimes we feel that it's like, I relate to this. Do you all have that experience? Yes? No? Yes? And so, what is it saying that I'm not experiencing in my daily to daily life? And is it possible to make that what I experience now and then somewhere part of my life? And here we say yes, because you can't go all the time on holidays, you can't go all the time in the natures. Of course, if you get, one of the things I also enjoy on a regular basis, and I take time for it, just go for a walk somewhere in a nice area, and you start to see the nature of our students, who really want to experience depth of spirituality. And one thing we do is we start our day with meditation, spiritual studies, and then, if you go just for a few minutes and just work it out, that this is what I have felt in the morning, and this is what I'm going to experience throughout the day, and it really, really helps us. Just coming back to the self, that all of us, we have childlike nature. It's there, it's untouched. But it's like, we have to bring that. And how that's going to happen. And I was just thinking, even our studies of this morning, it was such beautiful quote that, we are very careful about our words, that what effect is going to leave on the self, what effect is going to leave on others. And sometimes we also complain that, I don't want to say this, I don't want to do this, but it just happens. But here, this particular phrase was that when we start to work on ourselves, when we want to come back to our dignified state or self-respect stage or self-realization stage, then what we want to do. And our experiences, spiritual, who study spiritual studies on a regular basis, it starts from the thoughts, and very much our first lessons that we all have certain kind of experiences in our life, and sometimes we think, what can I do and how can I improve myself? And in the very first lesson, which is about the self-respect, self-realization, we teach about the thoughts, because where is the words are coming from, how we perform the actions. It comes from the thoughts. And so when we start to check or become charge of my thoughts, and it happens, because anything we do periods of time, it becomes part of the life. And so when we want to come back to our real self, then first of all, okay, today's topic is Raksha Bandhan. But if I simply ask you, because many of you are new here, what do you want to experience in your life? What is it that you want to experience in the life? Peace. Mm-hmm. Yes. And this is what we find. One thing that when we go to nature is telling about ourselves, and we relate to that. What else? Joy. What else? Something else? What we want in the life? What we are looking for? Happiness? Passion, yes. What else?
Love.
Love. What else? Contentment. Yes. What else? Inner strength, inner power. Yes. This is common thing. And the very first lesson, actually one of the word we use that we want, it's a beautiful word. Some of we have Hindi speaking our friends here. It says Sat, the truth. Chit, Anand Swarup. When I come back to my state of truth, then I experience the beauty of the self in my consciousness, the state of the bliss. And I think this is what we're going to experience in today's, occasion. But as I was earlier mentioning, that what we feel in our daily life, we are not control of our thoughts. And we say, well, it's just there, my mind is like that, what can I do? So one of the things we say, that on a regular basis, and it was a beautiful phrase today that, we are very careful about our physical food, and sometimes we read what's going to happen with this food, that food, and whatnot. And we take care of our physical body, which is very important. But this particular phrase was that that's the food for the body. But what is the food for our intellect? And what we are feeding our intellect? Are we feeding pure, positive, elevated thoughts? And we all know that, where is the negative or energy, positive or negative energy coming from? It's from ourselves. If we are in a state of sorrow, in a state of worries, in a state of anxiety, what kind of feelings we are creating in our atmosphere. And sometimes we don't say it, but we start to feel and we start to see that others who are involved with us, they also see very clearly something is not right. And sometimes we might be very clever hiding on the face, but how long we can hide on the face? At some point, if it goes for a long period of time, it's going to come in the face. And so what happens, that when we start to take care of our thoughts in terms of that this is my inner food of the intellect, and biggest gift we have, and we say from the Supreme, the Divine, it's the intellect. All of us, we have that. And when our intellect changes through giving pure, positive thoughts, and what happens, it takes little time. Because when we start to put something in our intellect, which is, as I just said it, righteous thoughts, pure thoughts, elevated thoughts, and naturally, what was before, it starts to finish. And we come to the point that really I don't want to touch that. And actually, all of us, once upon a time, we had that state, and we have to bring that back. One of the things I've been teaching and learning, two things happens in our life. We teach and we're also learning every day. Some of us are not very much into negativity. We know that we don't like it, most of the human beings. But we suffer a lot from waste. And somebody gave a very nice quote the other day. It was in our lesson that when there is lots of negative thinking, lots of negativity, then it's like inner bankruptcy. You know, I really feel very low internally, and I don't know what's happening to me. And if we have waste thinking, then it's just like passing the time. Nothing is achieved. One day this will happen, one day that will happen. And if I have positivity, pure, elevated thinking, sometimes we also say that it's good, very good, that we have to come to that point. But the next stage is, I have to become determined about it. We see lots of people, they have really positive thinking, but if it just remains up to mind, it's not going to come into actions. At least it's good. But if I want to bring something into actions, that pure state, that truthful state, you just, said it many things about the self, the love, the contentment, peace, happiness. First of all, yes, we have to create those kind of thoughts, and then we have to explore, and we have to become determined about it. And this particular occasion is kind of, what promise you're going to make. That this is what you want, and there are certain things which is bothering you. You want to get rid of it, and you really want to experience the reality of the real self, which is absolutely very, very high. And all of us, we can experience that. So that's what we actually going to do in this particular occasion. And if I tell you about it, actually the very name of the festival is Raksha, the protection, the bondage of protection, the bond of protection. And one of the things we say that when is the self-protection is going to take place, and which I've just mentioned, that all of us, we have inner powerful state, positive state, very elevated state. And once we start to work on that, actually one feels, I'm protected with many things. Not only that, but wherever I am at, because we all have, certain activities in our life. We have connection with family, connection with work, connections with friends, relatives. And if I start to become very much determined about my inner state, which is very, very positive. And I really, that this is what I'm going to do, wherever I am at. And here we, on a regular basis also, we say that inner self, which we have just mentioned in the beginning, that this is who I am. And then I explore that on a regular basis wherever I am at. And this is what we say, that spiritual consciousness or self-consciousness. All of us, we have that, and we relate to that. And so we really feel that we come back to our pure state of truth. And it also starts to become kind of stable. It becomes very strong state, no matter where am I at. Sometimes people complain about of the atmosphere. We can't run away from our daily activities which we are involved with. Can we get rid of work? Can we get rid of people who are we connected with? We can't do that. But what happens that when we are in that state of self-dignity, then the feelings which we give, whoever we are connected with, they start to see difference in us. They start to feel something, because everybody has got heart, everybody has got mind, everybody has got intellect. And so when there is something, we are creating, it's, I was just sharing the other day that how I started this path. It was my elder brother who started this and who wasn't into this at all. And when he was talking about this first, we laughed at him. You must have found somebody, in Hindi say, guru like you. But what he was saying, it was making sense, although we didn't accept him, because what he was, very outgoing and drinking and smoking and whatnot. And so here the person is talking about the self-realization and all that kind of things. But then it became very clear that what he is, as Judy was saying, that when we have company of certain people, we start to feel they're generating something. And we all have that capacity of generating positive energy. And so this is what we can do wherever we are involved at. Coming back to this occasion, because that's what we are here for today. Actually, as I said, that it was on 26th of August. As many of here are Hindi speaking, what was the beauty of that particular day when it was Raksha Bandhan? What was it? It was full moon. It always comes on Purnamashti, full moon. And that's very significant when we look at something which is absolutely perfect, full, complete. How it feels. That was very good. And so once upon a time, as I was saying earlier, all of us, we had inner spiritual state full of peace, full of purity, full of light, full of happiness, full of love, full of wisdom. We all had that. And sometimes, knowingly, unknowingly, we are looking for it. And when we find it, it's something like the heart says, this is what I was looking for. but we all had that state. And so I've been kind of celebrating. I know there is a different meaning in actual that, sister ties Rakhi to brother and brother has to protect sisters. That's how it goes. But just imagine nowadays who can protect who. But here we say that self-protection comes when I really realize myself. That's very, very important. Another thing is, here we have beautiful symbol of the light of the Supreme in this bracelet. And when we actually meditate, it's like coming back to that light stage of the self, the spiritual self. This part is the purest part in the body. And that's why, we have this dot, tika. And then actually is coming back to self-sovereign state. Once upon a time, I was like that master of my mind, master of my intellect, master of my behavior pattern, coming back to that. Master of my senses, physical body senses. So that's what actually come back to that. And then it's always tied. You cannot tie anything with one thread, it has to be two thread. So in the middle is the beautiful symbol of the light of the Supreme. And when I realize myself that I, the spiritual being, I have these eternal qualities within myself and I am eternal. And when I connect, when I come into this beautiful bondage, in beautiful relationship with the Supreme, and here the meditation which we teach, it's called Raj, the Master, Yoga, reunion with the Supreme. So my eternal connection with the Supreme, and when that bondage takes place, that bond takes place, then I come into beautiful bondage of unlimited love, unlimited happiness, unlimited of cleanliness or purity, unlimited wisdom. We all have it, it's within ourselves. We haven't explored. So this particular bond makes us feel that usually we don't like bond, but this beautiful bond actually is the bond that brings us back to the self, back to the Supreme. And when we come in connection with each other, our thoughts are very pure, our words are based on spiritual wisdom, our actions becomes very actions which one is content with the self, one is happy with the self. Because you see where the contentment is going to come from. When there is something missing in the life, and especially what's missing in the life is happiness, peace, love, inner wisdom. And when we start to become full of that, then actually the real contentment starts, and then one feels, I have got everything. When there is inner satisfaction, then there is feelings. What do I need actually? There is lots of satisfaction, lots of contentment. But when there is missing, then I want something. So coming back to the state of really contentment, And then we also say that we give sweet. And sweet means when we come to our innocent self. As I was saying earlier, all of us, why we really relate to the little babies, especially when they're born, is something tells about ourselves. There's so much purity, there's so much sweetness. And when we come back to our spiritual self, we have that sweetness within us. So that's what we're going to experience in today's